Hey everybody, it's GobletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'm going to be playing another Premier draft of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, one of the best draft formats on Arena. Without further ado, let's get into our Pack 1 Pick 1 here. It's actually a really weak Pack 1 in general. Our rare is basically unplayable. You get to recast some instant sorceries from your graveyard, but you need to have triple red to do it, and there's not really a great instant and sorcery-based archetype in this draft format. Our uncommons aren't great either. The Asari Captain just hasn't played super well, even if you're a dedicated Samurai deck. The Operative's pretty slow. The Merge Keeper is kind of just a weaker version of one of the common mana dorks in the set, which is one of the auras you can channel to spit out a 1/1 that taps for a green. You can do that at instant speed at least. So pretty weak pack, just duds out of the rares and uncommons. But we've got one really solid common, and that's what I'm going to take here. As I've said many times before, the vast majority of the sagas in this format are just incredible value for their mana cost. You're getting tons of abilities and a solid-sized body for the mana cost. You just have to wait. You gotta let it sit there for a couple turns to get your full value, but 2 mana, draw 2, discard 2, spit out a 2/3 flyer is an incredible deal, and we'll take the Modern Age. Now we have a high-speed hover bike, which is a solid card for any deck because it's colorless. It crews for only 1, so every deck's going to have a super easy time crewing this as a flying creature. So that'd be the most flexible card we could take, fitting into anything we end up in. We could also take Era of Enlightenment for another great value, cheap saga. We could take a removal spell with Intercessor's Rest, or a Network Disruptor if I want to stick to blue and grab a card that is great for getting some ninjutsu attacks in, making it hard to block your stuff. So excellent pack here. I think I'm going to play it nice and safe and just take that high-speed hover bike. That'll fit into our deck no matter what we end up doing. Pack 1, pick 3 here. Bunch of pretty weak red cards, nothing fantastic in green. Mainly our 2 options here are Suit Up as a really good blue combat trick, or the Era of Enlightenment as just a very good stat line saga again. Kind of want to go for the Era of Enlightenment here. I really like Suit Up in blue-black ninjutsu decks. Don't love it anywhere else, and we haven't seen a ton of black cards yet. We're only 3 picks in, but we'll see. Era of Enlightenment is a card I like in pretty much every white deck. So I think I'm going to take the Era over the Suit Up here. But if I take Suit Up and we do get past some good stuff for blue-black ninjutsu, then I will be pretty happy with it. So I think either of these is a very reasonable pick. I think those are the best 2 cards by a good margin, but I'll take the Era. Pack 1, pick 4, we do see an Intercessor's Arrest still in here for a decent white removal spell to go with our Era of Enlightenment. There's also Colossal Sky Turtle, which is a pretty good card. Requires a lot of mana to just jam it out, but it's really flexible, being able to be a bounce spell or graveyard recursion. It's really nice in a super grindy green-blue deck, because there's a card called Season of Renewal that can pick up a creature and an enchantment from your graveyard and put it back in your hand for 1 card. So you use that to pick up the Sky Turtle and something else, then you use the Sky Turtle to pick up the Season of Renewal again. So it's a pretty fun finisher for really grindy, controlling green-blue decks. So I think Sky Turtle's the highest upside card here if we end up in that archetype. So I guess I'll roll for that, but it'd be super reasonable to just take the Intercessor's Arrest towards white, or maybe even a Fade as a green removal spell. Pack 1, pick 5, nothing spectacular yet again. Kind of a weak draft pod so far overall. I'll just take a Bamboo Grove Archer because it plays quite well in the defensive grindy green-blue decks. We could also take Careful Cultivation, which is the common mana ramp card I was talking about, where at instant speed you can discard this from your hand to spit out a 1/1 that taps for a green. So, like an instant speed mana dork there. There's also Kami's Flare, which is a good red removal spell, but red doesn't pair super well with anything but really aggressive decks, and basically none of our picks so far are good in aggressive decks. So I'm going to take Bamboo Grove Archer, but Careful Cultivation would also be on my list of potential picks. Pick 6 can pretty easily scoop up a Geothermal Kami. This is great with any sagas that you want to rebuy, cast them again and get more value. If you want to draw and discard more cards, you can pick up the Modern Age. If you want to be able to blow up a flying creature, you can pick up a Bamboo Grove Archer to channel it. Pretty flexible card. I like Geothermal Kami a good bit. We can also take the Fall of Lord Konda. It's going to be able to exile a creature with mana value 4 or greater. So it's not very good against like the really aggressive decks, but it's quite good in like pretty grindy matchups. So that's a reasonable choice too. But I'm heavier into green and I'm a big fan of Geothermal Kami, so I'm going to take that. I guess the dual land could be on the list of potential pickups there too. Pick 7, Virus Beetle. Wow. I really, really like Virus Beetle. I think it's exceptional in blue-black ninjutsu. It's great in black-white artifacts enchantments. It's great in black-red artifacts in general. Black-green does also have some cards that care about having an artifact and enchantment on board, so it can be solid there. I think that's the most likely spot for it with everything we've drafted so far. I think it's a really strong card. It's the strongest card in this pack. Virus Beetle, Kami's Flare, and Tameo Safekeeping are the best 3. But I'm the biggest fan of Virus Beetle. It's probably the most reasonable to take Safekeeping since it's the most likely to make the cut. But I love Virus Beetle so much I'm going to take it anyway, just in case we manage to head towards black. Harmonious Emergence is a very solid green late-game creature. It's basically a 5-mana 4/5 Vigilance Haste, nice beat stick that keeps a blocker up. Pick 9, we still see Fade into Antiquity and Tameo Safekeeping. Looks like a great draft pod to be green in. I'll take a Fade here. Well, now Dokuchi Shadow Walker towards green-black could be fine. Green-black, you've got a lot of solid enter the battlefield effects, so being able to ninjutsu one of those creatures with their enter the battlefield effect back to your hand and replay it is nice. So I'll take the Shadow Walker. Alright, not super happy with how this draft has gone so far, but that's less because of my decisions during the draft and more just the card quality of these packs. I think just looking at the packs, looking at what we could have had if I drafted knowing everything I was going to get past, I don't think I would even have been able to end up in anything that looks particularly great to me here. But this looks about as solid as I think it could have been. I think green is likely where to be right now in this draft pod. See how things go. Hopefully everybody opens up some stronger cards in pack 2. Did somebody draft all the lands? Somebody might be drafting all the dual lands. Ooh, all right, we did open up some more powerful things. This pack single-handedly seems more powerful than all the packs out of pack 1. There's Gloom Shrieker for the green-black value deck. This is probably the pick here. We probably are pushing towards green-black, where we can use ninjutsu cards like Shadow Walker to re-up our enter the battlefield effects, like Gloom Shrieker and Virus Beetle. And we can also use cards like Geothermal Kami to pick up the Gloom Shrieker and recast it. Green-black, like Graveyard Recursion, just value in general. It's a pretty solid grindy matchup, or pretty solid grindy archetype, and Gloom Shrieker is fantastic for that. And it looks like great spot to be. We've got the Virus Beetle and the Shadow Walker, and those cards just get a lot better when we've got Gloom Shrieker to make both of them make even more sense. So I'm going to head in that direction. But there's also Oni Cult Anvil for red-black sack, red-black artifacts, which is great. Lizard Blades for aggressive red stuff. Super strong pack. But we'll go for the Gloom Shrieker. Ooh. Well, we're going to splash in a reality chip, worst case scenario. The reality chip is absolutely absurd. So probably green-black splash blue for Sky Turtle. Maybe do Sky Turtle Season of Renewal loops, and then also Reality Chip. So the way Reality Chip works is you have to play it, and then you also have to reconfigure it onto one of your creatures, but once you do, you can play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. So that means no matter what's on top of your library, you could just play from the top. So you can play your land from turn from the top, and then if you hit any kind of spells, you just start casting those. So you could end up like drawing 2 to 3 cards a turn off of this thing, which is insane. So I'll take Reality Chip over Assassin's Ink. Little sad to pass that up, but there's no universe where Reality Chip wheels, and it's more than strong enough to justify splashing a little blue when we already have a Sky Turtle that makes us want to splash blue as well. Got a Dismal Backwater, which I'd love to take, but we also have one of the mythic uncommons of the format, a card that I would say you should basically never pass when you're in that color, and that's Kappa-Tech Wrecker. As we've seen, as we've been over, this is a format loaded with artifact and enchantment cards. Lots of the creatures are artifacts and enchantments. There's sagas everywhere. There's vehicles. Kappa-Tech Wrecker can just hit the board, clear out one of your opponent's best cards on board and still leave behind a 1/3. Kapitek Wrecker is a great card, and I'm happy to scoop it up. Speaking of great cards, this is probably the only thing I could have gotten past that would have convinced me to not splash the reality chip, but if I need to hit quadruple green, I would rather be able to consistently hit quadruple green to make my 2, 4, 5 spirits than try to splash in a reality chip, because good lord is Invoke the Ancients completely busted. 5 mana for 8 power and 10 toughness worth of creatures? Like, okay, that seems pretty fair and reasonable. Invoke the Ancients is a wildly busted magic card. The only downside is that it needs you to be incredibly heavy into green to the point where I don't think we're splashing anymore. I could still play the Colossal Sky Turtle because if I pick up a copy of Season of Renewal, I never have to cast this for it to do the Season of Renewal loop. Still more likely going to get cut than not, but that is something we can consider. So I've got 4 2-mana creatures right now, which is pretty good. I don't think I need to jam another cheap card here with another Bamboo Grove Archer, so I'm actually going to go for the Spinning Wheel Kick, which is another big, insane late-game card if you have the mana for it. You do have to spend a lot of mana on it, but for 4 mana, you get to blow up one of your opponent's creatures. For 6 mana, you blow up 2 of them. For 8 mana, you blow up 3 of them. The later in the game you cast this, the more absurd it gets. So you do got to get a bit lucky, get a lot of lands for it, and hope your opponent doesn't have instant speed removal for whatever you're trying to kick with this. If you try to kick with your 4/5 and your opponent blows it up in response, then you just don't do damage to anything. That's a huge blowout. But as long as that doesn't happen, the card's pretty insane. So I've got a second Fade or a first Safekeeping here. Got some amount of pretty beefy stuff. I think I like having my first Safekeeping quite a bit. It's just a really good combat trick to keep something on board, or it can counter a removal spell. Really either way is pretty great. There's a Season of Renewal to go with the Sky Turtle. It's also pretty good in just green-black value in general, but Azusa's Many Journeys is a great aggressive 2-drop that can get us to ramp out early as well, play additional lands. So Many Journeys versus Renewal. I do want to have 1 copy of Season of Renewal when the draft ends, but I think 1 copy is going to be enough. So I'm going to take Many Journeys and hope to get just like 1 Season of Renewal later. Wow, another Many Journeys? And Assassin's Ink, pick 8? Double black's a little difficult when I'm trying to play a quadruple green card, so I think I stay as close to mono green as possible and take Azusa's Many Journeys, but this was a fantastic draft pod to be green-black in, because even Virus Beetle I would have been happy about getting pick 8. I'm just going to stay as close to mono green as possible with Invoke. Make that card really easy to cast. And I'll take a Master's Rebuke number 1 over Fade into Antiquity number 2, because there are going to be non-artifact, non-enchantment creatures that are going to be a big deal you want to deal with. And I'll just pick up a second Fade out of this pack anyway. Nobody in the draft pod seems to be liking Fade into Antiquity, so we can have as many copies as we want. I think I mainly just want like 2. I'm going to take a third though, because I don't think I want a Merge Keeper. It's never going to be modified, so it's just a worse version of Careful Cultivation. And I think I'm only going to want like 2 Careful Cultivations anyway. And here's my second Careful Cultivation. Another Bamboo Grove Archer. Clawing Torment's great in aggressive black decks too. Okay, this is some nonsense. See what we get pack 3. Do I have a lot of good blue cards? So I've got 3 excellent black cards. And 2 excellent blue cards, 3 excellent blue cards. Well, now I can just take Inventive Iteration and then we're splashing blue instead of splashing black. We're like mono green splash a secondary color because, again, Invoke the Ancients is so big. So I guess we take Inventive Iteration and go the green-blue direction instead of the green-black direction now. Because that's an incredible rare to open up here. Bounce a creature, draw a card, flip into a 3/3 flyer that stops your opponent from casting some spells. Thing's pretty busted. And now we have Iteration and Reality Chip in blue versus just the Gloom Shrieker really in black. Although now it could be Gloom Shrieker and Long Reach of Night. Oh my god. Could you imagine how good this deck would be if we had like the perfect mana base where somehow we could always hit quadruple green and also splash green and black? I'm not super excited about having 2 Sky Turtles, not super exciting about having a 4th Fade or a 2nd Safekeeping, so I'm still going to speculate on the Long Reach of Night. But we're going to have to decide if we're green-black or green-blue. There's no possible way our mana base is good enough for these invokes. And 3 color. But maybe if we start jamming Jungle Hollows and stuff, we could get there. Yeah, I mean, it's a 3rd Careful Cultivation or a 4th Fade into Antiquity if I take a green card. So I guess it's Jungle Hollow or Virus Beetle, really. So we'll go Jungle Hollow. Another Jungle Hollow? Alright, maybe we have to be green-black just because we can get a bunch of Jungle Hollows, which could really help get Invoke the Ancients in, because they up our black count while still making sure the vast majority of our lands can tap for green so that we can invoke on turn 5. I think I gotta take Jungle Hollow over the Modern Age here. And keep focused up on green mostly, so take Fang of Shigeki over some solid black cards like Ambusher mainly. Nothing in blue there at least. Competing. Grab my 1 copy of Season of Renewal that I definitely want. Over a Nezumi Prowler. Another Safekeeping's fine. God, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty is just such a powerful set. I mean, look at all this stuff. This is nuts. So if I cut blue, I'm at 26 cards, 2 lands. So this is basically just the deck right here. Just get to cut like one of these fades, because 3's a lot, and then boom. 17 land deck. None of these do really anything for our deck. I'll just rare draft an uncommon. Pick 9. None of these do anything. Another fade, another safekeeping. We definitely can't play double black cards like Malicious Malfunction. I already cut a 3rd fade, and I don't think I'm playing 3 safekeeping. I think, again, I'm not playing any of this, but maybe a Shadow Walker. Another Virus Beetle. Good grief, let's go. Okay, I will play that. And then we cut one of our Bamboo Grove Archers, I suppose. Actually, I have quite a few non-creature cards. And weirdly enough, the card that I took to stay open, that I was like, this is going to fit into any deck. I'm not that pumped about High-Speed Hoverbike. I feel like that looks like the cut to me out of everything in here. I don't think we need to be like jamming in Hoverbikes for damage. We're mainly on big Vigilant Haste green dorks, like Invoke and Kami, or just grinding out a ton of value throughout the game. Maybe I should drop one of the Careful Cultivations though, because the only thing I'm really trying to ramp into is Invoke the Ancients. But the nice thing about the Careful Cultivations is if I'm not channeling them, they hit double green. So 2 forests and a Careful Cultivation is enough to cast an Invoke. So that could be helpful. So we've got 10 green sources and 9 black sources, and none of my black cards require double black if I ninjutsu my Shadow Walker. Kind of want to drop down to 7 black sources, so this is 12 green sources, 7 black, which feels really good for Invoke the Ancients. And then I do think I get to just like cut one of the Careful Cultivations. I think the Jungle Hollows make it worth playing green-black over green-blue. If it weren't for the Jungle Hollows, our blue's a little bit better than our black, because chip plus iteration is pretty nuts. But that's kind of it in blue. It's Modern Age, chip, iteration. I guess the Sky Turtle loops are fun, but not incredible anyway. So we'll do green-black here. And I don't know, I guess we can definitely chip in with little flying hover bikes, so let's drop 1 cultivation. Call it a deck there. Yeah, looks pretty reasonable. Pretty solid, definitely got some explosive plays and a lot of recursive value. Oh, there's my Season of Renewal. I was going to say, wait, where's my season? There it is. Yeah, I'll call it a deck there. Alright, so here's a look at today's deck list. We are a green-black deck here with a heavy focus on the green to get towards our Invoke the Ancients as a huge finisher. This is going to spit out 2 4/5s for 5 mana, which is insane. That's 8 power and 10 toughness off of a 5 mana card. One of the 4/5s has Vigilance, the other one has Trample, or one of them has Reach, one of them has Trample. Really whatever you need at the time. Card is absurd. So that's the big finisher here. But we also just have a really good green-black mid-range grindy deck in general. We've got some really good 2-for-1 value plays like Gloom Shrieker and Virus Beetle, especially with ways to ninjutsu them back to our hand like Dokuchi Shadow Walker and Kappa Tech Wrecker. And the Tech Wrecker itself is a great 2-for-1 value play that if we then ninjutsu back with a Shadow Walker can be super busted. Long Reach of Night is yet another one of those cards that's going to make our opponent sacrifice 2 creatures or discard 2 cards, and then also spit out a creature, so it's like a 3-for-1. We've got a Geothermal Kami to pick up any of our enchantments to recast them, which is incredible with a Gloom Shrieker or a Long Reach of Night. A lot of just really, really good grindy value stuff going on in the deck in general for any game that we aren't just bombing our opponent out with Invoke the Ancients. So pretty solid stuff here. Excited to see how it does as we head into the gameplay. Here we are for game 1. We've got Azusa's Many Journeys, Bamboo Grove Archer, and High Speed Hover Bike all castable here. I'm not in love with this hand. We need a black source pretty badly, but if we hit it, Long Reach of Night's going to be incredible. We do at least hit a mana early, which lets us play an additional land off the Azusa's Many Journeys. So if I top deck another land, we're playing a 4-drop on turn 3, which is nasty. Not top deck the Swamp, so it's not going to pan out perfectly for us, but I can still play the Archer, keep some damage off of us, and then start jamming it with the Hover Bike, I guess. Maybe I should have played the Hover Bike first so I could just start hitting them rather than being defensive here. It's going to work out fine for us because our Hover Bike was not going to attack through a 1/4 reach anyway. I guess they could have blocked and then I rebuke after the block. But I think this is fine. We just drop another Many Journeys and keep jamming out 3/3s. We've got a couple Fade into Antiquity that would be pretty good against this because it is an artifact creature. So we can exile that, get it out of the way if we draw into one of those. We ever draw into a Swamp, Long Reach of Night's going to be great this game because we can Long Reach and then we can Shadow Walker it back to hand later. There's a 7-Tail Mentor for some +1/+1 counters. So they've got a 1/4 and a 3/4. Nice chunky blockers for our opponent. And we just keep drawing a bunch of non-land stuff, which I guess is fine. It means we're going to have plenty of plays throughout the game. Can't really attack in now, though, because that 3/4 body. I could have attacked against the 1/4 and then they block, plus I Master's Rebuke and I kill it. Can't really do that against the Mentor without losing a creature, which is not good. So I guess I'm going to Hover Bike during their end step to tap down the Mentor, so even if I don't hit another land, I can go for the Rebuke attack the turn after that. Depends on what they play here. If they have another solid creature, we're probably not getting in. Searchlight Companion. Alright, it's another creature, but they're pretty small. I'd feel pretty free to attack in against those. They are going to send in the 7-Tail Mentor. I think it's reasonable to trade 1 3/3 into that. They get to put a +1/+1 counter somewhere else after that. Yeah, I mean, trade a Likeness of the Seeker into that. It's definitely considerably better than what it would have been on attacks, which is trade a Likeness and a Master's Rebuke into that. They're going to both Seiju the Likeness. That's actually incredible for me. I guess I do lose both of these cards unless I Master's Rebuke. But that gets me my Swamp. And I can play the Long Reach of Night. I guess now that they've played 1/1 tokens, the Long Reach of Night is considerably weaker, so that's kind of a bummer. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I need to just Rebuke here and then pick up the Swamp. So I'll have another 3/3 on the ground. I'm not under much pressure, and I'm at 26 life because of double Azusa's many journeys. So it's kind of okay that the long reach isn't going to be exceptional here. Now I've got the 5 mana to destroy a flyer with the Bamboo Grove Archer if I want to. So that's pretty cool. They end up playing like a big scary flyer. I suppose they could just reconfigure the cuff onto the Searchlight Companion and then they have a 3/6 flyer, so that might already just convince me to fling the Bamboo Grove Archer at the Searchlight Companion. Season of Renewal for just the one creature. Alright. I don't love it, but I'm very happy that they used it now instead of waiting till they could get 2 things back. But it might be quite some time until they have an enchantment, because they haven't played an enchantment all game. Let's see if my Hoverbite gets combat tricked, because if I can take this trade and not have to deal with a big flyer, that'd be cool with me. Cool, we get the trade, don't get combat tricked, we get the flyer out of the way, so it's not going to be a 3/3 flyer off a 7-tail Mentor or a 3/6 flyer off a Web Spinner Cuff. Let's go Harmonious Emergence here. That was a fantastic draw. Because that can attack and against the... I guess I should have attacked with both. Just in case they wanted to chump block here. Plus this has the untap the lands ability, but I don't think I was going to just play the Archer. I think I'm holding this as a removal spell until I need a 3/3 blocker, which I don't right now. But still think I should have attacked with the Likeness, because I don't think there was any way I was going to block with it. Alright, cool. So, can play a Jungle Hollow and still have Bamboo Grove Archer channel mana up. And double block with 4 power. I guess 4 power is not enough to kill the Cuff, so I don't really get in at all here. If I attack both, I get in. Because 7-tail Mentor can't block either of these without dying. Okay. One of these hits them. Or they double block and kill the Likeness. Or they do that. Lose the 7-tail Mentor here. So the Cuff's getting really annoying, so we really want to draw into a Fade into Antiquity. Am I going to get to a point where I'm just going to hardcast a Shadow Walker as a 5/5? Doubt it. I'm probably picking up Animus next turn. Never mind. That's a big blocker, so... Oh wait, I've got the Bamboo Grove Archer. Alright, never mind. This actually works great. I was going to say, Animus can't really attack in. Now it can, because I make sure they only have 1 blocker on the board. And how does this work on the front half? They sacrifice a creature unless they discard a card. So if they control no creatures, they don't have to discard a card, but if they have no cards in hand, they have to sack a creature. So I think it is worth returning to my hand here to replay it then, because they're going to have 2 creatures. They're going to have to sack 2 things. So they'll just keep any lands they draw onto and have to discard those. But if they don't draw into lands, then they're going to have to just sack creatures. Because if they draw into creatures, they're going to play them and then have to sack them to the long reach. Alright, cool. I held on to Virus Beetle because we revealed to them that I have the long reach of Night in hand. So if they top decked a land, they were definitely going to hold it in hand. So having the Beetle to make them discard that before I play long reach of Night would have been pretty valuable. We really can't. This thing is so big. 4/7 Web Spinner Cuff. We're gonna have to just wait still. And again, Virus Beetle isn't really impacting this board. So I guess I'm just holding on to it again in case they get to a position where they can actually drop something. All right, now they have to sacrifice the portrait to the long reach. And there we go. Fade into Antiquity is a phenomenal draw, because now I can finally exile the Gigantic Cuff, which lets my Shadow Walker jam in. I actually just attack with everybody here, because their best block is to trade with Shadow Walker, and then they take 7, and then Long Reach takes things over. So that's kind of what we were talking about with just green-black grinded out value. That recursion of the Long Reach of Night was incredible there, clearing out a Rain of Truth and an Iron Apprentice, and then drawing into Fade was fantastic too. So real good stuff for game 1. We are 1-0 as we head into game 2. Here we are for game 2. I'm pretty unhappy about double Swamp with our Invoke the Ancients in hand, but I'm still going to keep this and hope for the best off the top. We do have a good chunk more forests than swamps. So we should be able to draw into 3 of them eventually. And whenever it happens, the Invoke's going to be quite strong. Virus Beetle. Am I so unhappy about the swamp that I drop it? I don't think so. I think I just get rid of an archer. Maybe a safekeep. That's actually not a great safekeeping hand. Oh. Well, I guess we still have a safekeeping. Just play another archer and discard another safekeeping if they play another virus beetle here. They are black-red, so they're going to be playing as many dirty little artifact creatures as possible to sacrifice and get some great value. The bronze plate boar. And we've drawn the 3rd swamp before a 2nd forest. You hate to see it. You really hate to see it. At least I get to play a geothermal Kami here. Could pick up one of my archers just to gain a few life. Probably better to just have a 4-3. I have 11 green sources in my deck now. Well, now. I've had them since the start of the game. Okay, 10 green sources left in these 29 cards. 1/3 of my draws should be green sources, which means... Oh, that means it's going to take 6 turns on average to get 2 more. Well, we got to survive for 6 turns on average. There's only 2 more black sources. Well, there's 4 more black sources, because there's the cards that are both. Well, this is going to be, what, +2/+0 to everybody? So, I mean, this is going to be a trade, whether or not they give everybody +2/+0. And then... that'll be a trade, but I can safekeeping in response. And then I just take 6. I think that's cool with me. If it's something else, I guess we'll find out. Oh, it's ninjutsu for Death Touch. Okay. I can safekeeping against that. Sure. Is it both? Okay, no, it's just Death Touch. Cool. Safekeeping then. There's that and a Kami Flare for 3 damage at instant speed. Against Prowler, I wish I blocked a little more with the Archer. Just assumed it would be like the +2/+0 to everybody. Most likely thing. Oh. Oh my god, that just exiles my Invoke the Ancients from my hand. Yeah. Seems good. And now I'm just gonna hit Forest. Well, they've got a Virus Beetle now back in their hand off Ninjutsu, so... that is super brutal. So, for 3 mana, they played a 3/3 and exiled the best card on my hand. And returned their Virus Beetle to hand. To make me discard another card at some point. Seems very strong. It's a very good Biting Palm Ninja play. So, shouldn't have to specify this, but we are miles behind in card advantage. We have nothing in hand. They still have 4 cards left, and the board state's basically even. So we're really far behind here. We're going to have to draw significantly better than our opponent to turn this around. Drew one of our last 2 swamps. Let's go. I think I'm going to start holding on to these now that we know the virus beetle's gone anyway. In case they have like a long reach of night or something that can make us discard multiple things. So we know they have Nezumi Prowlers, so they can return something and give Death Touch. I guess they're just going to bounce Virus Beetle then and recast it. That's fine. I think we do this because the fact that we have 1 card in hand here could convince them to bounce the Virus Beetle, and this way we're getting them to bounce the Virus Beetle with no Death Touch value from Prowler. Oh, Jesus Christ. Return to action the ninja now? So its Menace counter is back, which means it gets to have Menace, and every time it hits us, it could exile a card from our hand. Okay. Holding on to the swamp, I don't really mind it getting virus beetled, and if they don't a virus beetle, then again it could matter for if they have a long reach of night or something. Well, a Gravelighter is disgusting. Surprised they didn't sack the Iron Apprentice so they could still have the virus beetle for beetle loops. Hey, now I'll virus beetle your last card. Which is Oni Colt Anvil. Alright, let's go. Best virus beetle ever. Don't think it's quite gonna beat getting virus beetle and biting palm ninja looped. But it can try. Well, make them discard their land in hand and then they just attack for 6 and we die. Yep. Okay. Well, that game was a massive bummer. I think the only thing we really could have done differently was mulligan there. That was kind of the only decision that mattered. Their hand just played out incredibly synergistically, and we drew real awkwardly. I ended up discarding a safekeeping because I'm like, this doesn't do too much here, and then we just drew another one. Double archers, a bit awkward. Didn't really get to play much of anything here. Like, looking at these cards, these are all kind of our most dirtily cards. Our big play was Invoke the Ancient and got exiled, but even if it didn't, technically, we never hit the 4th forest for it, so yeah, could have mulliganed there. Maybe a stronger hand out of our deck could have beaten that, but that was quite the curve from our opponent. Mainly a lot of ridiculous ninjutsu synergies going on to put us far behind in cards, with a ton of discard, targeted discard as well, to choose the best card in our hand and get rid of it. Would have been an uphill battle no matter what, but a multi-6, in hindsight, of course, would have had a better shot. 1-1 heading into game 3. Here we are for game 3. Why? Every opening hand with Invoke has double swamp. It's insane. It's so statistically unlikely. We're only 3 games in, so it's not that statistically unlikely. But it feels like all the time. I'm gonna run it back, and we're just gonna see if this goes any better. At some point, by RNG, the most statistically likely thing has got to happen, right? Where we draw significantly more green sources than black sources. Turn 4 Long Reach of Night should be pretty solid here. We are at 2 out of 4 green sources now. Fang of Shigeki, Rabbit Battery, just some 1/1s from our opponents. They're going to have really expendable stuff. Oh my god, let's go. 3 out of 4 green sources? Maybe this is that opportunity where we do draw a lot more green sources than black sources, as we have built our deck to hopefully do. I'd be surprised if they choose to discard a card here. They do? Discard a Greater Tanuki. Alright. Seems good to me. If the game goes that long, pretty nice to kill the 6/5 instead of a 1/1. Ooh, Invigorating Hot Spring can throw counters onto their creatures, and everything with a counter on it has haste. So basically oh my god, let's go. We just drew perfect mana. The Arena and RNG Shuffler gods heard my complaints, and they were like, alright, fine. We'll give you this game. Okay, so we saw basically the 2 different ways that the double swamp invoke the ancient hands could work out. I didn't know you could give them both trample. I thought they had to be different abilities. I guess you can give them both trample, so we'll do that. Probably gonna fade the Fang, so they can't kill these. I've gotten completely sidetracked, but I think we're doing pretty great this game. Oh, Hot Spring Merge Keeper is actually very fun, because it has haste and it taps for double green because it's modified. So it like immediately pays for itself. That's very cute. I like our opponent's little synergies going on here, but also hoping Invoke the Ancients is just a ridiculous enough card that it's not going to matter, really. So we fade the Fang and jam in for 8 with trample. They do have green up if they've got the Tameo safekeeping, but it looks like they don't. Technically, I could save this land for next turn, but I'm playing a 6th land so that I could attack with Animus Ninjutsu it with the Kappa and recast the Long Reach of Night. Or I could ninjutsu both of these. But I could have held the land for a turn. I don't see any black mana from them though, so I'm not really worried about them casting a Long Reach of Night or something. It's about the only reason I'd want to keep the land in hand in this matchup. Jukai Preserver hits the board. Put a counter on itself. The Hot Spring could put a counter on it as well, so they have a 5/5 against the 4/5s. Yeah, that can put a counter on something that already has one. I was going to say, I don't know why they didn't. I guess they can double block one of our 4/5s. That could be the plan. I do like having another haste creature. I guess because it has vigilance, we do actually have the mana to do this and still ninjutsu the Tech Wrecker. I just won't be able to recast the Long Reach. This actually seems good. The pressure is huge from doing this. Oh my god, yeah, and the Tech Wrecker gets to exile the Hot Spring, because the Tech Wrecker doesn't exile until after it's dealt damage to them, so I couldn't exile one of the blockers before. So the blocker is going to kill my thing here, so I'll just kill the 4/4 and then exile the Hot Spring, I think. But I suppose I could just choose to have the Force deal 2 damage to the Merge Keeper to kill that instead, and then exile the Preserver. Not really going to matter either way, they are going to scoop them up, so As I was saying earlier, that is just the two ends of the spectrum for those Invoke the Ancient opening hands. Just what happens if you don't draw the green. We just drew some more awkward cards, and then what happens when we do? We cast Invoke the Ancients, and it blows our opponent's face up. We are now 2-1, heading into game 4. Mono green hand. I'm pretty cool with it. We only have a few black cards in the deck, and of course we have the Invoke the Ancients that wants us to have a ton of green if we draw into it, and we draw into a Jungle Hollow. Pretty good stuff. I'll play that as my third land after Zeus's Many Journeys. That'll be my bonus land for turn 2. This is going to be our best Zeus's Many Journeys game, I think, because we actually do benefit from getting a lot of lands out early to get towards the Spinning Wheel Kick, especially with a Death Toucher on board. Spinning Wheel Kick plus a Death Toucher means we can kill whatever we want with those two cards together. So if they don't kill our Fang of Shigeki, it'll actually be okay if we just keep drawing a bunch of lands. Ooh, and this is going to be a real good matchup for the Spinning Wheel Kick, because if we can kill all of their non-vehicle cards to where these are sitting there not being able to get crewed, we can put them in a rough spot. So I guess here I'm just holding up Hoverbike. I guess I can cycle Cultivation as well. That's another mana dork towards the Spinning Wheel Kick. I have 6 mana, I can kick 2 things next turn. If they have 2 things. So they have to crew the mech for 3, but if they do, it crews both their vehicles. There's an Ancestral Katana. Oh, this is really going to be a good game to try to strand their vehicles and equipment and stuff. We don't need to kill that many creatures to just nullify a majority of their board. Wait, I had the mana to do Cultivation and Hoverbike, didn't I? I think I just blanked there. I probably should have done that, but I'd just be hitting them for 1 more damage. It's not a huge deal. I'm not going to Spinning Wheel Kick against 1 creature. I'm going to wait a little bit. So they can Katana the Disruptor, which means that they get to crew the mech, which means both vehicles are crewed. They hit for 6, which is fine. I'm still going to get greedy here. I'm only taking 6 a turn and I'm at 24, so I can take this damage for a little while. I'm going to wait till they play at least 1 more creature to kick. Virus Beetle? Not bad. Still playing all my lands for the Spinning Wheel Kick. If I'm super scared, I could hold the Hoverbike back because it can trade into Dragonfly Soup, but I'm not. Let's keep jamming in. We're down to 9, we're at 18. And they're just going to scoop them up already. Didn't even need to try to Spinning Wheel Kick away any creatures, so let's go. We are now 3-1. Solid spot to be, at least an even run this time, but if we win a few more games, we can get into the money pretty easily here, so see if we can't keep it up as we head into game number 5. Here we are for game 5. Double safekeeping in the opener is not really what we want to see, but I like the mana a lot. Like the Journeys, nice and early. Gloomshrieker also is another card we want to wait on ideally, so these 3, maybe it was worth a mulligan because all these are kind of late game plays. But basically, any non-land cards are great draws now. Just like 4-drop creatures to jam down before we get the Gloomshrieker going, or 1 or 2 mana creatures to jam down before we go for the Gloomshrieker. Black-green mirror match it is. They started with a turn 1 Okiba and a raid. Great card, drains us for life and spits out a menace card. Alright, well, Another land is definitely not great. Not under any pressure right now. We can play this game nice and slow, make sure we get full value from Gloom Shrieker. Life of Toshiro Umezawa. Incredibly happy I didn't play Gloom Shrieker. This is another one of the mythic uncommons in the set, similar to Kappa Tech Wrecker. This thing's just busted. It's super flexible, super powerful, always gives you a ton of value off of just that 2-mana card there. You can kill multiple 1/1s, or just multiple 1-toughness creatures, or it can jam in for an extra 4 damage over the first 2 turns, or it can gain you 4 life. So, really good card. So, don't really need a 1/1 dork, but I think I'd rather have a 1/1 dork than make my likeness a 4/6. I guess with double safekeeping, this is really weird. But with double safekeeping in my hand, I guess I'm actually just making a beefy likeness of the Seeker rather than playing a 1/1. If I wanted to make a 1/1 mana dork, because channel effects are instant speed, I could have done that and had it not die to Life of Toshiro Umezawa, so we could have made a 1/1. But I actually think just having a 4/6 is perfectly reasonable. Just use that to race the Road Captain. It's not like they can kill it when we have 2 safekeepings. Plus a Gloom Shrieker if it actually does die. Geothermal Kami for the Life of Toshiro Umezawa seems incredible. Just going to gain them another 4. Oh, they're just not going to pick anything up. Okay, they're going to keep it as a 2/3. That's fair too. There's a Fade into Antiquity. So it can be like so much for the 2/3. I almost think a 2/2 Menace is worse for me. I'm more scared of that. I'm just going to block. Because on board, I hit them for 4, then they hit us for 4, then I hit them for 4, then they hit us for 4. Like, I'm losing that race because they're currently at 24, we're currently at 18. I guess I'd put them to 20, so it'd be like 20 life to 18 life, but they're still hitting me before I hit them. Alright, Emergence is bad. I can block that, but they're getting close to being able to just attack around my likeness of the Seeker. Geothermal Kami is something. I don't think I'm picking anything up with it. Man, this Gloom Shrieker thing is not panned out. Because the Kami for the Gloom Shrieker is so sweet. But I guess the other way around is still good. If we trade Kami into something, then we Gloom Shrieker the Kami back to our hand, and then play the Kami to pick up the Gloom Shrieker, we can still do it. We can still do the Geothermal Kami plus Gloom Shrieker loop, which is pretty powerful. And I still have the mana for the safekeepings, because the likeness of the Seeker can tap for double green. So we're chilling. Chilling and seeing who draws into some better stuff. We are behind in cards. They've got 4 more cards to play around with. We've got 3 more. Alright, now we both have 3 cards in hand. But I'm still definitely a bit behind here. I'm behind in life total, slightly behind on board. So we'll see how things pan out. That's a decent start, being able to safekeeping away the Assassin's Ink. And they're going to pass turn from there. Swamp's not great. They are green-black, so I'm going to hold 1 land in my hand at all times against Virus Beetle and the Long Reach of Night. Primarily the Long Reach of Night being the one I'd be super worried about. It's a very good card. I guess all they really do with the Life of Toshiro is just gain 4 again. Well, no, they can give +2/+2 2 turns in a row and actually jam in for some damage. That would be pretty bad. Yeah. That is pretty good. It's 5 toughness as well. I guess I can go for a safekeeping if they try to kill Likeness, and if they try to kill Kami, then I let it die and I Gloom Shrieker it back. Try to kill Likeness. Safekeeping. Spinning Wheel Kick. Hold up. I don't have enough power to kill that swamp. It's actually not great right now. Green, green, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could target both of them, I just don't have 5 power, so let's just hold off. Until they have at least one more creature that dies to it, so I can dump all my mana into it, kill 2 or 3 things. Because if I play the swamp, I have enough mana to try to kill 3 things with it. But, again, don't have 5 power. I kind of hate how the swamp looks like a forest when it has a Harmonious Emergence on it. That is not very helpful, because it looked like they tapped double green for their Life of Toshiro Umezawa earlier, and I was like, wait, what? Yeah, it's because that's a swamp. Ooh, Exile? Come on. Would be Exile, wouldn't it? Oh, dear. Well, at least Safekeeping couldn't do anything against that anyway. I kind of have to exile the Kami. Such a huge bummer because it's so good with the Gloom Shrieker. But it's not big enough to block something without dying, and the Likeness is. So there goes the Geothermal Kami game plan. Got another combat? No, we do not have another combat trick. Jukai Trainee. Okay, well, I guess I can kill 2 things with the Wheel Kick. If I wait till the life flips, then I kill 3 things. Please, no more removal. Don't top deck removal here. They basically ran out of stuff playing off the top now. Ooh, Season Renewal? They're looking at their graveyard. Maybe their own Gloom Shrieker. That would be disgusting, because they actually do have a Geothermal Kami engrave for the Gloom Shrieker. Pick up the Kami, and then next turn play the Kami, pick up the Gloom Shrieker, have it ready to pick something else up. What combat trick would they have that would make them want to attack with this, but not Geothermal Kami? I feel like this is just a bluff attack because it's free, and anything that would kill this into a swamp would kill it into a Kami too. Alright, it is a bluff attack. Let's see if they've got an instant. Oh lord, do I hope they don't. Kick. Alright. No instant. We do take 4 damage on the crackback. That's going to be a thing. Well, now they can Season of Renewal. I guess that's the issue. To pick up life and the Kami. So I was right. They do have Season of Renewal. So I gave them 1 more card to pick up, but it's because 3 cards just died, so I think it was still worth it. They can hit for 6 right now. And they do. We're down to 10. Zeus's Many Journeys. I guess we are playing that here. I could attack with both to hit them for 4, since they can just +2/+2 the swamp next turn anyway. But I guess I can double block the swamp. Stop the damage, and they just kill the likeness of the Seeker. And that's all. And then I guess I could finally Gloom Shriek or something. Sure. I guess I should be playing on blocks here. They're at 27 life. I'm not really going to poke them for all that much. I just put them back to 23. They've got 8 mana up. Play a Bamboo Grove Archer, and they've got the Geothermal Kami. Well, now we know what all of their cards are, and at this rate, somebody's going to have to draw into something to win the game. And holding back the blockers did make them just go for the Life of Teshurun as a life gain. So, oh my god, what a draw. Virus Beetle. No more Life of Teshurun nonsense. Discard that. I'm over it. But we're still in a board stall. No one really gets to do anything. Gonna see who draws into the biggest, scariest stuff first. Fang of Shigeki is solid. I guess that's just gonna trade into the Bamboo Grove Archer. Generous Visitor. Ooh, that's spooky. If they draw any more enchantments, that'll do big things. I'm gonna hold this for discard spells like Virus Beetle and Long Reach a Night. I can't do anything about the Visitor. Still don't really get attacks in. Okay, maybe I do with Season of Renewal. Just start jamming. So Gloomshrieker exiles itself when it dies, so we can't do like any Season of Renewal loops with it or anything super busted. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think starting to trade a little bit of nonsense off with the Season is fine, because we have Season and Gloomshrieker. We've got a lot of graveyard recursion going on. Man, huge bummer that they exiled the Geothermal Kami, because that also makes our Season of Renewal worse. Not just our Gloomshrieker that feels sad about it. Oh wow, we're trading Fang into the Generous Visitor? That is really nice. Okay. This is all fine by me. Oh, do they have their own Tamio safekeeping to protect the Visitor? I guess it could be like any combat trick in the book. Oh, they're going to safekeeping the Archer over the Visitor. Cool with me. Do I just pick up one with Gloomshrieker right now, or both with Season? We'll just pick up both with Season. I'm going to replay the Fang, because the Emergence has haste. And the Fang just immediately gets to attack, and a Fang trading into any of those is good for me. Ooh, speaking of things that are good for me, that can't make haste creatures, so don't care too much about pre-combating that. I'll just play Fang, or just attack with Fang. But we are going to jam that Invoke down. Just go Vigilance here, because their stuff's beefy enough, and they're at a really high life total to where I don't think Trample's that insane. Oh, I forgot about Likeness being able to tap for mana. Could have played my stuff earlier. Fade is a great draw. We are drawing incredibly. I actually am gonna fade the Archer here. They can double block and kill one of my 4/5s, but if they kill the non-token 4/5, I can Gloom Shrieker it. Life of Toshiro Umezawa. They've got multiples? That's real good. So that kills our Fang of Shigeki, and then it's going to kill our Virus Beetle. Will lower our board state for sure. Whittle it down a bit. Double block on the Likeness, fair enough. We kill the Geothermal Kami. Suppose I could Gloom Shrieker the Careful Cultivation and then put the Cultivation on the Gloom Shrieker. It's better than picking up the 1/1 Death Touch right now, because that just dies to Life of Toshiro. And Gloom Shrieker dies to Life of Toshiro unless I beef it up. Yeah, I want to just immediately impact the board with more power and toughness to attack with next turn, now that they're down to 8. So I'm just going to make a beefy Gloom Shrieker. And they're going to scoop them up. It's going to get there, so just really good draws there. We ended up in a top deck war, and we won the top deck war. It's really just as simple as that, just drew better than our opponent. So we are now, I believe, 4-1, breaking even at least in this draft, and we certainly are. 1,400 gems and 3 packs minimum. See if we can't keep it going as we head into game number 6. Here we are for game 6. We definitely got to hit some more lands to get to that long reach of night to do some nice stuff. Also, again, multiple late game plays with the spinning wheel kick and the fade into antiquity as pieces of interaction. Plus safekeeping not being needed to cast till late as well, so 3 pieces of interaction is a bit high, but I'm still gonna keep this hand. Run out a Cap Attack Wrecker with a safekeeping to keep it alive. Go from there. It's definitely gonna have targets against a Generous Visitor. We have immediately drawn a Forest, which is a great draw, because we need some lands here, and green sources are the best sources. Take 1 damage from Generous Visitor, and then cast a Kami of Transence. Really good start for our opponents. That's quite spooky. Let's drop the Cap Attack Wrecker. Have a 1/3 Death Toucher on blocks at least, but if they play an enchantment, the Generous Visitor puts a counter on any creature, and the Kami gets a counter as well. Plus, if we ever kill the Kami, it just gets to come back during the end step if an enchantment was put into their graveyard from the battlefield. It just goes right back to their hand anyway. So this is really not good. This is like a standard green-white enchantments curve out. Yeah. Oh my god. Alright. Well, I don't know how we're gonna get there. At least we didn't get hit that turn. Now I get to block and safekeeping, because all I can fade into Antiquity is a 1/1 right now, and I don't have the mana to actually target anything with Spinning Wheel Kick. Do our best here, but this is a phenomenal curve for anybody. Well, great turn to have safekeeping. That means they just have no attacks this turn. That helps a lot. That really does, genuinely. If we can get to 6 mana, Spinning Wheel Kick could be big because we have 2 different Death Touchers that we could have around. Cast the Long Reach of Night, probably start clearing out their 1/1s. Again, nothing great to fade. So I don't want to like fade plus Fang. Like Fang's a good play, but fade plus Fang doesn't do much. Take a big hit here down to 13. 1 mana away from killing 2 things with a Spinning Wheel Kick. Unfortunately, they didn't play a good enchantment yet again, so Fade is looking real dead. They're the green-white enchantments matchup, and Fade looks bad because they've just played 2 1/1 enchantments, and that was it. So that's awkward. At least I get to drop Fang of Shigeki here. Have 2 death-touching blockers up. Maybe don't have to lose the Wrecker in a trade on blocks. Alright, there's a good card for Fade into Antiquity. But I can't Fade into Antiquity and Spinning Wheel Kick in the same turn, so I might just Spinning Wheel Kick that. Okay, if they don't lose an enchantment, kind of each end step. Oh my god. So that's not just during their turn. During our end step, if we kill their Goshintai, that comes back to their hand. I mean, it won't be a 5/5 anymore. I take the block here. Let them pick it back up. Oh, Gloom Shrieker? Hold up. Hold up now. Now that I have a Gloom Shrieker, I don't think I'm spinning willing these 2. I think I'm attacking with Tech Wrecker. All they can do is block with Visitor, or we exile Goshintai naturally, and I can Gloom Shrieker back the Fang if I need a Death Toucher, or even better, Gloom Shrieker back a Kappa Tech Wrecker later. So they're going to let me exile the Goshintai. I'm happily going to do that. And then we will have to just Gloom Shrieker back the Fang so that I've got a good blocker for Generous Visitor, since Animus is certainly not that. That's the case, but that was an exile, not a kill, so the Kami does not go back into their hand. Reasonably stable board now. The life totals are still looking quite bad for us, and Blossom Prancer can absolutely swing the game back towards our opponent. Not completely in their favor, because we have that Spinning Wheel Kick to kill both of these, but that was certainly a great play here. Get a 4/4 reach on the board and draw a solid card. Being the Harmonious Emergence to play next turn. So Emergence has haste, but it hits me for 4. I'm gonna jam in with everybody, put them down to 10. It would have been reasonable to just hold Fang of Shigeki back, but I think I hit them for lethal if they just jam out the Emergence and attack. No, I'm literally 1 damage from lethal. Okay, I guess I shouldn't have attacked with Fang then. I was thinking I could lethal them. Oh yeah, it has Vigilance, but I get to exile the enchantment anyway. So if I could have dealt lethal damage here, it still would have been worth it, but I can't. It's not lethal. So I should have held a Death Toucher back. Either way, they do scoop them up there because we're still going to get there in 2 swings, and I guess they know that they don't have an out in their hand, so huge recovery there. Things were looking quite bad. They had a really good start to that game, but being able to get multiple like 2-for-1s clearing things out with Spinning Wheel Kick and the Long Reach of Night can really help stabilize us and flip the game in our favor. So 1,600 gems and 4 packs, no matter what, great rewards here as we are 5-1 heading into round 7. And here we are for game 7. We got a Virus Beetle early, Harmonious Emergence later. And then Season of Renewal to pick them both up. Seems fine with me. Our opponent is on red. Pretty much any red deck in the format tends to be quite aggressive, so we'll see what they're doing. Red-black and red-blue artifact-based aggro are my favorite red archetypes. But there's also red-white samurai, and just red-green modified that's about +1/+1 counters and stuff. The Dragon Spark Reactor keeps getting charge counters every time they play an artifact, and once it has a ton, they can sacrifice it and deal damage equal to the number of charge counters to a player and one of our creatures. So this just sits there and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and scarier and scarier and scarier until it shoots me for a bunch and kills my best creature. There's an Aki Emberkeeper for 2/1. If a modified creature they control dies, they get a 1/1 spirit. But they currently have no modified creatures. I think I'll hold the Beetle back to block it if they don't modify their Emberkeeper. Oh, I'm pretty tempted to get the 4-mana investment of Emergence out of the way so I can hold up Season or Cultivation or whatever later. Their mono red so far shouldn't have a lot that can kill a tapped 4/5, so I'm just going to do that. Next turn, I would have the mana to turn the forest into that Vigilant Haste creature and just hold that Vigilant Forest up for safekeeping, so that could have been fine too. Uh-oh, double Dragon Spark Reactor? They could just be mono red artifacts. If red was nice and opened the draft pod, and that looks like what they are trying to do here so far. Okay, I've got the safekeeping up now, so we just jam in. They don't even have enough power on board to kill the forest anyway. And I can block because it's got vigilance, so we can definitely send in the Virus Beetle. And they don't block the Virus Beetle, so a great ninjutsu hit off of the Shadow Walker here for 9 damage, plus the ability to recast a Virus Beetle later. They're going to crack a Synthesizer, digging for maybe their second color, or maybe some removal spells. Jam in with the Ember Keepers. I'll block one. They're going to try to Ironhoof Boar to kill my forest. I can safekeeping to protect it. Now I've got a Rebuke up. They're at 10, but I can't quite lethal them. Actually, I can barely lethal them here, so I will. So I gotta declare the attack, and then before they can declare blocks, spend the 2 mana to shoot the 1 blocker. And there we go. 10 damage they can't block, and we are now 6-1, 1 win away from a 7-win run with this very nice Golgari pile. And here we are for round 1 of the final boss. We've got 2 potential shots at this. This is our first one. It's a little bit of a weird hand, but I am going to keep it. It's mono green, but we're definitely going to draw a decent amount of mono green hands. We only have a few black spells. The weird thing is double Bamboo Grove Archer is a bit awkward. I do like just running out a Tech Wrecker onto the Reckoner Raid here. I think that seems good to me. Solid value. Double black from our opponent. Another Okiba Reckoner Raid. And a Dockside Chef. I could tap down the Dockside Chef with high-speed hoverbike, but I'm pretty okay if they want to lose it to Death Touch. Because then I'm just killing multiple enchantments off this thing. Alright, cool. Tech Wrecker. Let's clear out one of these Menace Dorks. I think I'm going to clear out the one that's closer to attacking. I could clear out the Chef. It's actually kind of a difficult decision. It really depends on what they have coming up, whether or not the chef is going to be good. The 2/2 menaces are definitely going to be solid. They're going to be spooky. So I'm just going to get rid of the one that's going to drain me for another life, I think. And play an archer pass. So green-black mirror match. There's a Goshintai of Boundless Vigor. It's going to get larger and larger as the game progresses. Not super big for now. Hover bike down something and make a 1/1. Definitely got to draw into some stuff here again. Bit of a dirtle fest for now. They're just going to pass the turn, fair enough. I mean, at this rate, just eventually the Goshintai is big enough to just keep attacking and can't do much about it. I think I'm going to make the hover bike and a 1/1 and just start hitting them with the hover bike every turn so that we're proactively doing something here. The safekeeping. I'm going to hold this land for now against green-black. I don't think I need to hold the Bamboo Grove Archer. There's not a lot of flyers in green-black. Most of them I can just block. The only ones that I wouldn't be able to are just going to make me lose the game even if I destroy them with Bamboo Grove Archer. Like if they have a Junji the Midnight Sky. One of the mythic dragons that does a bunch of things when it dies. It's not really going to matter if I can blow it up with a Bamboo Grove Archer. Because it's still going to 3-for-1 me pretty hard. So there's a Kami of Transcendence to keep getting bigger as they play their enchantments. So whenever they do get around to attacking with the Goshintai, I think I am going to just block with the Cap Attack Wrecker before anything else. So that if I draw any graveyard recursion, I might be able to ninjutsu it in, picking up my hover bike to exile the Goshintai. And that could be our out to the Goshintai if I don't draw one of my Fade into Antiquities. Alright, we're still just hanging out. Having ourselves a party. Geothermal Kami. I can pick up a Bamboo Grove Archer, but there's not much of a point outside of getting a 4/3 onto the board. I think as soon as my opponent starts attacking me, I need to just jam this out, but for now I'm going to play it real greedy and just hold on to it in case I can find a Gloom Shrieker or something. That goes really well with it. Yeah, because they're still just passing for now. Getting to a point I probably have to jam it out. I'm going to give it one more turn of greed. I'll get hit by the Goshintai one time. And then I'll Kami. Alright, well I guess we lose because we don't have interaction to that. So that's going to clear out the majority of our board. We've reached the point. I just need more creatures. So I'm playing the Kami. Tales of Master Sashiro is fantastic on a board like this, because now they get vigilant attacks with their large trampling creatures. They're going to put it on the Nezumi Road Captain. I guess because, yeah, that does make blocking real hard for us. Kind of already is, though. Alright, well, I'll 1-for-1 trade into the Captain. That's a bummer. We gotta hold the hover bike up on blocks now. They have 11 trampling power this turn. Down to 9. Blade Blesser. They just discard the card in their hand and then kill me on the crackback. 5/5 Vigilance, 9 power trample creature. Alright. Just did not hit a lot of gas there, and our opponent certainly did. Things were balanced out for a bit there, and a bit of a top deck war. Until they hit the Goshintai, and then it was like, well, if we draw a Fade, we balance the game out. But now, even if we drew a Fade, they have Tales of Master Sashiro about to slap us, and we're just not coming back at this point. I mean, I'm already dead on board. Alright, 6-2 as we head into game number 9. The final battle of today's draft. Here we are for game number 9, which is the final game, win or lose. Very solid opening hand. The Virus Beetle on turn 2, the Long Reach of Night on turn 4, and the Shadow Walker to Ninjutsu, either of them back for great value. And now we've even drawn into a Jungle Hollow, so we get to gain a life off of our turn 1 land. And we're guaranteeing at least 4 mana, which is good with a Spinning Wheel Kick coming up eventually. There's a Kumano Faces Kakuzan from our opponent's red-green deck. So relatively aggressive start. They didn't play it till turn 2, so they top-decked it on turn 2. So not as aggressive as it could have been if they had it in their opening hand, at least. We'll see what Virus Beetle makes them discard. They have to discard a Voltage Surge to the Virus Beetle. Actually a really smart decision from our opponent, because our deck does not have a lot of stuff to Voltage Surge. And Unstoppable Ogre's really good with Kumano Faces Kakuzan, because normally the 1 toughness on that card is an absolute killer. But because of the Kumano, it is a 5/2, and I can't kill it with a Virus Beetle, so we're taking a quarter of our life total in every hit from that, and 7 damage in one swing on turn 4 here. This is a wildly aggressive start from our opponent, and they might even have combat tricks they want to play to get extra damage in. Oh, Ninjutsu here to replay the Saga. Get a counter onto the Stalker, so that's a 3/2. Oh my god, alright. I mean, I think you got me. I don't know what I'm really supposed to do against this curve. And a Kami's Flare as well, and that was the worst of their 3 cards left? Okay. This is an unwinnable game if I've ever seen one, but I guess we'll see how we're gonna die. There's the Iron Apprentice with another counter with their Saga. Jamming with everybody, I can't kill anything. I guess we just die a boring way. I wanted to see what was spicier than Kami's Flare. But it is true, like I don't get to play anything next turn, so all I can do is chump and then die next turn anyway. Maybe they kept Iron Apprentice over the Kami's Flare because then they sack the Apprentice to the Long Reach of Night. Wow, drawing Rebuke plus Kick was really bad here with just the one creature for now. This feels so bad, but it's our only way to not literally die on board. And I still take 7 on board. Surge Hacker Mech. Alright. Well, if we had a few more early game plays, this matchup looks pretty winnable. It was just a really great curve from them. Like if this were a traditional draft best 2 out of 3 kind of thing. But that looked like about the most aggressive hand possible. Outside of like one turn maybe. Yep. Rebuke plus Kick is super awkward. I can play a 5/5, they attack all, we take 2. Alright. Fantastic aggressive curve from our opponent. Definitely going to steal the final game from us. And we are 6-3. Still a great record. Still very much in the money here. Just would have liked to wrap things up with a 7-win run. That would have been great. But you cannot win them all. But you can win most of the games, as you can see. So one last look at the deck, talk about our over and underperformers. The mana base was the biggest issue here. I think Invoke the Ancients is the strongest of the invokes. And it's still just kind of 50-50 for us, I think, if I remember correctly. We got to win a game with it once, and then we also just lose the game with it once because we had the wrong lands. I mean, 2 of our 3 losses were pretty awkward. Mana-wise. One of our games that we lost, we were mono-green almost all game, and then we drew into Long Reach of Night. But we drew the Swamp for the Long Reach of Night, like the turn after we drew it, and I think the mana issues were not the most of our problems that game, but certainly our first loss with Invoke the Ancients in hand was very much like a mana issue loss. So yeah, it won like the two games we got to cast it, I think, but we did lose to mana issues in one of them. So maybe that is the biggest difference here, is that we could have went for the 3-color deck, not going for quadruple green and just going for like a single blue for Reality Chip and Inventive Iteration. Something like our mana base changes to this plus 7, 8, 9 plus 6, 15 plus like 3 islands in here, and cut some of our weakest green-black cards. Cut one of our safekeepings because we were drawing 2 of those in the opener often, which was super awkward. And then maybe like the cultivation, we were drawing it pretty frequently and I was never that excited about it. I think probably a Sultai list was where I was at. We could get the turtle in here as well. I think I was a little too married to Invoke the Ancients. Probably the best thing. That could have changed around during drafting and deck building. I think that's the biggest thing we could have done. I don't think any of our losses were winnable due to like user gameplay error or anything, which is interesting because I think most of the time it's the other way around. I think most of the time, most of the drafts I end up playing, most of what can change is just like gameplay error, just some misplays during the games. But here I think it was mainly deck building, not necessarily drafting. I think I still drafted fine. But the deck building, I don't think Invoke was actually worth not just playing green, black, and blue. Probably would have been better to go green, black, and blue because the mana would have been a little better, funnily enough, playing green, black, and blue than just green, black because we did have mana issues going for Invoke. And we would have just a couple more strong cards instead of just the one really strong invoke. So that's probably the biggest thing that could have changed. But cannot be unhappy with a 6-3 run, grabbing 1,800 gems and 5 packs out of the event. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the videos. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. You can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below if you're interested in catching me live. You can check out the Patreon link in the description below, as well as the join button if you'd like to support the channel directly. And other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.